everybody, and welcome to another episode of PRNEWS Live. I'm Nicole Schumann, Senior Editor at PRNEWS, and I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. As always, if you have any questions, just pop them into the comments and we'll get to them throughout the chat. Today, I'd like to welcome Michael Kaye. He's the Global Communications and PR Manager at dating app OkCupid. You know, when I was writing out your title, I wasn't sure whether to say app or site. So I'm not sure what you guys prefer, but I know when I used OkCupid back in the day, I used it mostly as a site, but I know now most people use it as an app. So
yeah, we are one of the OGs, so we've been around a while. So we had a lot of site users in the beginning, but now most people are on there, right on their iPhones.
Oh yeah, for sure. And for anybody who's ventured into internet dating, and nowadays I'd say that's probably a majority, especially during the pandemic. I met my fiance on Tinder, so everybody has their connection to an internet dating story. OkCupid is one of the most popular and not to mention inclusive websites for all kinds of singles, and they pride themselves on listening to their users, and their product shows that. And as we were saying, it's certainly been a challenging year for dating with COVID restrictions. So we're eager to hear how OkCupid has been innovating, as they always do, especially with Valentine's Day right around the corner. So welcome, Michael. We're very glad to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here.
Great. So first, I'd like to talk about a fun article we featured on PRNEWS this week regarding Valentine's Day branding, messaging, and campaigns. I'm sure you're starting to see a lot of these this week if you haven't already. And the article does mention OkCupid, as well as Wisconsin cheese, and a few other great brands are in there. And as we've seen, Valentine's Day has really evolved to include not just significant others, but also friends. Valentine's Day is a big deal for some. Even if you are in a committed relationship, it's always great to celebrate your friends, family, and even pets. So according to the National Retail Federation, it's projected that Americans are going to spend over $21.8 billion on Valentine's Day gifts and memorabilia this year. That's a lot. It comes to an average of $165 per person. That is a lot of candy and flowers and conversation hearts, but we're happy to see it. So, Michael, I'll ask, do you have a special Valentine this year?
I do. The same Valentine for 6 or 7 years now that I met online dating.
There you go. You are a representative of your brand.
Yes.
And as you can see in the article, there are some very clever campaigns this year. Sophie, our senior content manager, talks about yours, which we'll talk more about in a minute. I actually received a special delivery from Wisconsin Cheese. If you love cheese, they provided a really cool campaign where you could enter to win one of 500 limited edition boxes from Wisconsin, the state of cheese. And the boxes were actually huge and filled with cheese. It was amazing. National Confectioners Association, you don't think about who's representing the candy people. They actually have a really great website that talks about the history of Valentine's Day and candy. And, one of the factoids that they shared was that in the 1800s, doctors actually prescribed chocolate to calm nerves and mend broken hearts, which I think is still applicable, to many today. So that's great. A lot of brands are just slapping pink on stuff, as they do for the holiday. One that we caught was macaroni and cheese, Kraft. I'm not sure. I'm really interested in eating pink macaroni and cheese. But some people are, maybe kids. But then also we saw a product, Skull Candy, the earbuds and headphones. They created a specially designed product for Valentine's Day. But actually what they're doing is that some of their proceeds are going to the charity To Write Love on Her Arms, which is a organization that deals with mental health and suicide prevention and those sorts of things. So all kinds of different campaigns we have going on. Michael, including the campaigns we mentioned here, have any others stood out to you, and what makes them memorable?
Yeah, there's a lot of brands doing some really cool stuff. But one that really caught my radar, I think it was at the end of last week or over the weekend, the Sioux Falls area Humane Society in South Dakota is actually allowing people to have their ex's name written on a litter box if they donate between $5 to $30. And I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. I'm sure there was a ton of social chatter about it. I know it definitely caught my radar. I think I actually saw it on TikTok, someone posting about it. And I thought it was just a really fun way to celebrate, the holiday. And then you also have brands partnering together. Starbucks, I am a brand loyalist for over a decade. They just partnered with Uber, and they're offering consumers both free delivery and half off orders. So you can get really creative and scrappy and fun with this, or you can simply do a brand partnership and give people a nice discount.
That Sioux Falls thing, that's pretty wild. I think I remember a couple of years ago, I don't know if they're still doing it. It might have been one of the zoos. You could name a cockroach after one of your exes, which I thought was pretty inventive. And, it just shows Valentine's Day is for everybody. Whether you have a significant other or not, you can celebrate it in any way that you want to. And that leads me into the campaign that you guys have launched. Actually, you're doing quite a few things in regards to Valentine's Day and dating, over the next month or so. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the OkCupid, the Valentines cards that you created this year to distribute to those that you find worthy. Can you tell me a little bit more about this campaign and where the idea came from?
Yeah, this is a really fun one. So when we started thinking about Valentine's Day and, what we wanted to do to celebrate, we started looking into the traditional parts of Valentine's Day. And one thing that kept coming up is that people simply bought greeting cards for their partner. And when we started looking at greeting cards available, we realized that there were a ton of underrepresented people and types of relationships. And when we went a little bit further, we actually found a report from a year or so ago that said, a majority, almost 60% of people said that there needs to be more gender neutral designs when it comes to greeting cards. And because of our history being, really the most inclusive dating app out there, we figured, why shouldn't we be the ones to create these cards? So we partnered with Mechanism, which is our creative agency. They're a brilliant team we've worked with for years at this point. We worked with them on campaigns, on OkCupid's first ever TV spot last year. So they've always been a really great partner to us, and they really helped bring these incredible Valentine's Day cards to life. And, my favorite part of it is that we are representing couples, people, relationships that are, historically underrepresented. We're telling and showing interracial couples and people who are transgender and non-binary that we see you, we hear you, we value you, and we want to celebrate you this Valentine's Day. And all the brilliant creative artists behind the cards are either BIPOC, LGBTQ+, or allies of our community. And they really touch upon some really fun, types of couples. One of the most popular ones happens to be around our new female vice president. And it is simply, saying that the person I'm looking for is someone who will pronounce Kamala right. But there's some other great ones about gay couples and people who are in relationships and might identify as non-binary or transgender. So it was a really fun one for us to launch, but it had a really important meaning behind it as well.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I mean, there are so many different types of love now, and For a brand to be able to recognize that and go forward with that, especially, you know, when we're talking about diversity and inclusion, and, you know, companies making these statements saying that, you know, we mean to be more diverse, we mean to be more inclusive. It's the actions, I think, that are going to stand out for people more than just the words that are coming from these companies. So, and whether that has to do with internal hiring, or, you know, just the type of representation, you know, we see in an ad, it also has to do with the product. So it's nice to see that you guys are, you know, delivering on that promise, and, you know, really living your brand as, you know, one of the most innovative and diverse companies in the dating scene. So, you know, and really listening to your audience. That's something that I think brands are finally starting to get, some of them. You know, not just saying, oh, this is a great idea, this is what we want to do. But when you have something that you can back up with data, like you were saying, I think it just goes to show that, you know, you really are listening. So like I said, you guys are really good at listening and learning from your audience. You know, what are some ways the brands can do that and weave that in the communications?
Yeah, so I think one thing that I think we're doing at OkCupid that I don't know if everyone is doing, but you need to get to know who your consumers are, and not just through market research. You know, I've worked on clients before on the agency side where we look at our consumer as a list of data, and we don't really know who these people are. But at OkCupid, we are actually connecting and talking with our daters all around the world every single day, every single week. We are chatting with them through the platforms, or we're interviewing them and listening to their feedback. Last night, for example, I was talking to a user in Indonesia who is moving soon to Germany, and they were giving me a background of, you know, what they love and things they dislike about our app. And all that feedback is always taken into consideration. It's shared between all our teams, but we really do listen to the consumer, and we go straight to the consumer.
Do you notice real cultural differences between, you know, like you said, you're talking to people on a global level, or, you know, like, for example, the Valentine's cards, were those released on a global level or just within the United States?
That's a great question. We, since it is available online for free, it is available globally, and we've already seen some, you know, press attention in the U.S. As well as some of our international markets, including Israel and the United Kingdom. But there definitely is cultural differences between daters around the world, and that's why I think, you know, OkCupid is really the only dating app that is personalizing the user experience around the world. We obviously have tons of matching questions. We have over thousands, and users really engage with these questions, but we use it to personalize the experience for them. So we have localized questions in over 30 markets around the world, because if I'm dating here in New York City, there are things that I care about that might not be relevant for someone in Mumbai or Jakarta or Tel Aviv or London. So in each of our countries around the world, and we're in over 110 countries, we also have localized questions for users in those markets. And taking that a step further, we have series of questions that are only available to LGBTQ plus users, but understanding that not everyone under the rainbow umbrella dates the same way or cares about the same things. We have questions specific for gay users, as well as questions for bisexual users, for example.
That's great. And I know you mentioned in our pre-call, you guys are doing an event, I think tonight, with another partner. You know, you're talking about the differences, and, you know, it's not just, you know, whether you're gay or straight or bi or, you know, those sorts of things, but also the differences in your preferences of lifestyle, which if you want to talk more about that event, go for it. I'd like to hear more about it.
Yeah, so we also partnered with Sweet Earth Foods last week, and we tonight are hosting a live virtual event with OkCupid's dating expert, Damona Hoffman, and it's really helping people understand how to connect with people who might not have the same dietary preferences for them. So, or as them. So we, as always, we looked at the data and we realized that it's a bit challenging sometimes to date as a vegan or a vegetarian. And that's really where this partnership was born. And the really great part about working with Damona is she is actually married to a vegetarian, but before they started dating, they were flipped. So Damona used to be a vegetarian and her husband was a meat eater, and now they're swapped, and they're, the perfect example of how to make it work. But the entire event is going to be focused on, how to get through some of those challenges. And what's really hopeful is that we're seeing in 2021 that people are more open than ever before to dating someone with different dietary preferences or lifestyle preferences, like someone who is vegan or flexitarian or keeps kosher.
As a foodie, I'm very happy that my partner is a foodie as well, because we might have some disagreements, if one person were to go one way and another. But so I think that's a great event, for people that are, struggling with those sorts of issues, whether they're dating or single or in a couple. I think that's important. So that's great. That's a great partnership. And, something that's the thing about partnership. Sometimes you are approached by a brand or someone and you say, this is not a fit. Like, we do this, you do that. But there are ways to always bring things together, through these sorts of conversations. So I applaud you guys on that. You're always being very innovative. I just wanted to go back to the Valentines for a minute. As I was saying, a lot of brands are, trying to showcase, newly proclaimed diversity and inclusion missions. And you guys always really put it into practice with your products. And these Valentines are bold. They are, putting it out there. You guys must have, great support and backing from leadership on this, which is great. What is some advice you may have for brands looking to go bold and, just really, kind of be courageous and say what they want to say?
Yeah, I think we're entering a new era where brands have to do this, whether they're comfortable or not. But you really need to be authentic to who your brand is, because consumers are smarter these days than ever before. They're going to read right through something that might be just a marketing tactic, and a brand trying to win over a certain demographic despite not ever prioritizing that group of people ever before. So for us, we're able to, launch these really inclusive campaigns because inclusivity has been true, like part of OkCupid's core since the beginning. So for years, we've, prioritized the LGBTQ plus community and our daters of color. It's not new for the brand, and we're never going to shy away from it. We were the first dating app to really expand gender and orientation options for users. We currently have over 40 options for people to choose from, and they can select multiple on our platform because we realize not everyone can be put into one singular box in terms of identity. We were also the first major dating app to create a space for LGBTQ users to add in their gender pronouns for other daters. And last summer, we decided to release and open that feature to every single dater, regardless of their sexual orientation, in an effort to really normalize the use of gender pronouns. Last year, again, during the Black Lives Matter movement, we decided to be the only dating app to launch a Black Lives Matter badge. And we also introduced a new series of questions about racial equality that have been answered millions and millions of times, because we know that OkCupid is a platform for finding love, but it's also a platform where people are having really deep, meaningful conversations. And we wanted to make it easier for our daters to start talking about race and having those uncomfortable conversations as well.
Do you ever get, I know you said you get to, talk to users here and there. Have you gotten some, really interesting feedback from people that are just like, thank you for be, opening this to me, or, just, I don't know, some, positive feedback in that sense.
Yeah, we get a lot of tweets and DMs from users who, really applaud the work that we're doing, which makes it, that much more rewarding for each of us. But there's been several times that I've gotten DMs from people on Twitter saying, I absolutely love everything OkCupid's doing, or I met my partner on OkCupid, or I will get DMs from people sharing baby photos because they are OkCupid success stories. But especially around our Black Lives Matter badge, there were a lot of people sharing and really applauding us for introducing this feature and so quickly. No one really knows this, but our badges typically take 2 to 3 months of planning between the marketing and product teams. But because we realize this is such an important movement and moment in history, our leadership said, make this work. And our badge was turned around in 72 hours. So one Tuesday we had a meeting amongst our marketing team and product teams, decided to launch this badge. And by Thursday morning, it had already been live in the app and was launched in PR.
That's incredible. And, for anyone working on a product, especially in the tech sector, trying to launch something in 72 hours is almost unimaginable. So that's great. And you guys are lucky to have this leadership that really, puts it out there and supports you. What would you say to somebody that, might want to try something but is unsure of how their leadership would react?
I would say do your research and have the conversation. Don't just come up with this idea if it's not something your brand has done before. Come prepared to answer all questions, and really educate and explain to your leadership on why it's so important to be doing this right now, especially if you're like one of the many companies where the leadership does not reflect the nation that we're living in. And likely, if you're having these conversations with your leadership, they are white cisgender people. So there's going to be a level of education that's needed, but it's so important to be paving the way. And it's challenging. I've worked at agencies before where not only is the entire leadership white, but at least 98% of the agency was white. And before I started, introducing ideas to be more inclusive in our comms work, I started doing presentations for the entire company about the importance behind these activities. So I recommended we do internal presentations where everyone would have a turn. And I kicked it off with talking about the importance of Hispanic marketing. And from there, I was then able to bring some of those key learnings back to my client work and introduce the most inclusive influencer program that specific client had ever had.
Yeah, I think education is definitely something that more companies are looking for and leaning towards. So that's a really great idea, and a great best practice for any agency or brand or really anyone that is wants to try something new to do. And you're right, you definitely have to do your due diligence and your homework as well. So Michael, we have a couple of minutes left. Just wondering, what else are you guys working on? It seems like you have so much going on and so many cool things for users. So, let us know what else is going on over there.
Yeah, so the last thing, which I'm so excited to be sharing with you first, is a new partnership that we announced this morning. So we realized that 86% of our users were listening to music before a date to really help themselves get pumped up. And this was happening during the pandemic. So people are going on virtual dates, they're going on social distance dates. Dating never stopped, it just adapted. So we started to think about the role music was playing in people's lives. And we decided to partner with Tunein, which is a global streaming and on-demand audio service. And we introduced brand new playlists that are dating themed and timed to Valentine's Day. And it's perfect for any stage of the date. So if you're about to go on a virtual date over FaceTime with one of your OkCupid matches, you can listen to our new playlist called You Got This, which is pre-date jams to really help pump you up. You'll get to hear songs from Meg Thee Stallion and Justin Timberlake and some really fun tracks. Or if you're, just reminiscing on your recent match and all the amazing conversations you're having with them, you can listen to our Quarantine Crush playlist. You'll get to hear Ariana Grande in there and Justin Timberlake, or Justin Bieber, I'm sorry, and some other really great artists. And if the date is going really well, or if you happen to be living with your partner, you can listen to Setting the Mood playlist, which is simply for anybody who wants to listen to music while getting it on.
That's awesome. I'm going to check some of those out today, especially to prepare for the weekend. But no, that's awesome. And, music reaches so many people on so many levels. So it's really fun that you guys are able to do something like that. You can always use a new playlist. Well, it always goes by so fast, and I'm sorry to say that we are out of time. We did share the link to the release about the Tunein playlist. So if y'all are interested in that, that is in the LinkedIn comments. So check that out today. I want to thank you all for joining us today on PRNEWS Live, and I want to thank Michael for joining us. I know you're so busy, especially at this time of year, for taking the time out of your schedule. It's great to have you. And before we go, I just want to remind everyone that we have a great opportunity to showcase your outstanding innovative campaigns. You might be interested in this, Michael. We certainly know this has been the year for digital to really stretch creativity. So be sure to celebrate your work by entering the Digital PR Awards beginning on February 19th. So it's coming up next week. And it's a great opportunity for anybody who has done some really cool digital work this year, and we want to see it. They're always fun to go through. And we'll share that link in the chat as well. So thank you all for joining us today. We are going to be back in a couple weeks with a special show revisiting some of the chats that we had about diversity almost a year ago with Dwayna Haley and Neil Foote. They'll be joining us again. So look out for the time on that, and we will see you soon. Stay well.